I'm going to start the video off with something controversial. I do not like onions. I don't like the taste of them. I don't like the smell of them. However, onion oil is one of the most requested topics I've ever had to cover on this channel, and I thought it would make for a perfect new episode of my Carrier Oils 101 series. But this one's going to be slightly different because it's not quite as simple as onion oil, because there are many things that fall under that umbrella or that name. You have ranging from onion oil, which is so potent it's an essential oil, to onion seed oil, or even onion juice, which is like a DIY version of making your own onion oil. But I'm going to cover all of the properties that kind of fit under that umbrella because they all do come from onions and they do make an oil-like substance. So it's all going to kind of fit together to be a part of this episode. And if something is a little bit here, a little bit there, it's usually in terms of potency. So just something to consider. But first, I'd like to do a quick welcome to you guys. My name is Dan C. Bearded. If you're new here, I cover beard content on this channel. However, the beard content almost always applies to all areas of skin and hair. There are some beard-specific videos, but this entire series, especially the Carrier Oil series, it will relate to anybody, whether you're taking care of your head hair, your skin, you're making products. I think you might find that valuable. So if that sounds good to you guys, first and foremost, everybody, please hit a thumbs up for me to support this video, this platform for free. And then if you are new, consider subscribing or at least browse the other videos and see if it's a good fit for you. Let's take a look at the history of this oil, and I love history. I am currently a middle school history teacher for a couple more weeks, then I'm retiring and doing this full time. So excited for that next chapter. But with the history, we believe the first recorded evidence of humans using onion oil on their skin and hair is thousands of years ago, back with the ancient Egyptians. And this really isn't a surprise if you've been following this series or history at all. The Egyptians were all about trying whatever they could to make their skin look amazing, from whether it was the women using makeup or the men really styling up their beards. They would try all sorts of oils to ingest them for health purposes, to put them on their skin, to put them on their hair. They were really about taking care of their bodies, living long, and looking great while they did it. So I absolutely love that. But today, more recently, the leading producers of onion oil in the world, number one would be China and number two would be India, with India being the largest consumer or the purchaser of onion oil by a huge margin. Now, as I kind of touched in the intro, there is a wide range of what onion oil is. A lot of that has to do with it being really big on the DIY side of things, people making their own concoctions, getting their own oil at home because of these like legends and fable of hair growth that we have. Now, when it comes to terms with studies and actual evidence, which I'm big on, it is very new, very recent. There's not a lot of money behind this, but we're starting to slowly see it kind of creep into some medical journals and some different studies out there. And it's so new, like we don't even have a comedogenic scale rating, which is how likely it is to clog your pores. That's something that I usually really like to go with. We do know shelf life. Shelf life is about 2 to 3 years. And I do have one interesting study that I'm going to link in the description below. And this was a study on alopecia patients and using onion juice, right? Essentially blended up onions, getting the juice out of them to regrow hair that they had missing or falling out from alopecia. And the results were very interesting. It skewed greatly towards the males having positive experiences and not so much the females. And this was on head hair that they studied this. And 94% of men in the onion juice group experienced regrowth and better hair growth afterwards, as compared to 13% that were in the control group, right? The double-blind study. They just used tap water instead of the oil. Only 13% had regrowth or better growth. That's staggering. Now, it's not directly related to beards, but it does tell us there is something there. It's at least worth looking more into and kind of acknowledging the fact, like, okay, this has been said for thousands of years. The idea that it can help with growth, the idea that it can regrow hair again, and we have it now in a peer-reviewed journal, something that is studied and then actually like taking a look at and saying, all right, this is legit. There's something there. I hope we get some more money behind this and some more studies, because what if this was an absolute game changer of an ingredient? I'm not sold yet, but I would love to see us dive into it more. Let's take a look at the benefits of this oil, but first, to do it justice, I do need to acknowledge the scent or the smell of this oil. Very potent, and you guessed it, it smells like onions. There is like an earthiness to it, but my goodness gracious, I've worked with this personally. You open the bottle and goodness, your entire work area, your entire house is going to smell like those onions, and that's not a pleasant smell to me. So just something that you got to know right away before we talk about these good things. So a couple of things that we want to know. The viscosity or thickness is a good straight up medium thickness. The pH level, which I don't always cover because it's not usually relevant or a big factor, is almost identical to the average pH level of our facial skin, right? The skin that we have on our face. That is a good thing if we're trying to mimic sebum oil, if we're trying to balance out what's going on in our face. That's a huge plus. Other pluses, it checks all of the normal boxes, vitamins A, B, C, and E. Those are all good. And then kind of a unique one for onion oil is that it is very rich in sulfur. Now, this is a kind of mixed bag again. The bad to it, sulfur brings that kind of pungent smell. It brings that earthiness to it, that stankiness to it. But it is really good. Maybe the best thing that we've ever studied was strengthening hair. It has these bonds that latch onto the hair. It can really do some amazing things that we really don't see anywhere else. However, those same traits that bond your hair can also dry out your skin, which is good for clearing up things like acne on your face, but it's not good for nourishing a dry beard that we want to have that oil, that really like sebumness that we are looking for. So it is always a mixed bag. Once again, another one is it has a unique ability to delay the onset of gray hairs, which depending on your personal preference could be a good thing or a bad thing. I know some of us like myself, I embrace those grays. I welcome them. I'm excited for them. Others of you out there are like, hey, slow those grays down. Well, that could be what we're looking for there. And then as I've alluded to all video long, we do have some studies that are flirting with it, hinting at it. We do have generational anecdotal evidence that's been passed down and praised by countries and families and even empires that this does have hair growth properties. Now, I will say, as being a history teacher and someone that loves studying these oils, oftentimes the oils that have those generational traits, those generational stories and myths and legends, end up being true. We almost always study those and we find some components in it, we do some tests, and it usually works out that way, right? Those stories don't just come from anywhere, it's coming from actual people experiencing them and noticing. So it is promising, even though I don't have the most hardcore proof when it comes to hair growth. I always like to end these Carrier Oils 101 videos with a recommendation or not. And this might be the toughest one I've ever done. I've had some that are, no, you should not use this in any cosmetic blend for hair and skin. And I have some that I'm like, yes, this is my favorite. Please look for it. This one is really situational. It is not a very common carrier in the United States because there are just better options out there. But if you are in an area where you do not have a lot of options and this is common, this is affordable and accessible, it's something that you should weigh the pros and cons of, but you should not be scared of. For me personally, I will not use this in a blend or have it in a blend that I use, mainly because of the smell, but also my worries with drying my beard out. That's a top priority for me. I want my beard to be nourished and feel lifelike, not dried out. However, the stories, the results are undeniable with the hair growth, the properties that we know that are within there, from the sulfur to the vitamins, that is also undeniable and something that could be a good option. So if it is all you have and you're really worried about if it's good or bad, you can rest easy on this and know that potentially it could be an amazing ingredient as long as you can kind of mud through those cons that are kind of going against you there. So if you are in a place like India and this is a common ingredient for you and you found this helpful, you learned something, maybe you were entertained, please consider sharing this with somebody else that would learn from this and maybe use the information, whether it's on their own blend or with products they're looking for. If we can get the word out, we can really help some people. And who knows, maybe if this gets a little traction, maybe they'll spark some more studies in the future and we can get some cold, hard evidence about its hair growth traits. And that would be amazing, right? Imagine if we had a study on beards with onion oil and then maybe be like, all right, it is this miracle ingredient. It stinks, but maybe it's worth it. So What are your questions? Is there anything that I did not cover? I normally forget something that's really relevant. I would love to go and try to answer that for you guys. What about your experiences? Have you used this? Please leave a comment. That's probably the most valuable thing you could leave below is your personal experiences. And then do you have any add-ons? Is there something you know that I did not cover? I would love for you to share down below. And then lastly, what carrier oil would you like to see next on this segment that I've not covered yet? I usually make my list order by your guys' requests and demands. This one had a lot of heat behind it, and I'm glad to finally do it. Thank you guys for watching today. My name is Dan C. Bearded. Stay bearded and stay positive.